And we're live. Welcome back, everyone. We were just talking before the stream, trying to figure out how many episodes Nikki T has done. This is Nikki T's 6th appearance on the stream. How you doing, man?
Doing pretty good, doing pretty good. A little later here, but not really that tired. I'm actually getting ready. I'm heading to DevRelCon in New York City tomorrow, so I gotta. I mean, I have most of my laundry done, so I just gotta throw a bunch of stuff in a mini bag. It's like not like last week. I actually just got back from San Francisco on
I was going
Saturday.
to
I
ask if you
was
went to the AI World Fair.
No, I didn't make it to that because I actually was at two of them. So like originally I was supposed to go to AI Engineer Miami and like just attend. And then I got a talk accepted for AI Engineer Europe. So like obviously good idea to give that talk. so
Right.
so that kind of came out of nowhere last minute. I was just chatting with Swix and he was saying he was looking for people to do on the OpenClaw track. And I just dropped him a DM. I said, like, I added this security feature to OpenClaw. I don't know if this is the kind of stuff you're looking for. And then he's like, yeah. Initially, he was like, yeah, that could be good. And then there's a bit of radio silence because I think, obviously a lot of people, it's very tough to get a talk accepted at any of these. And then he got back to me eventually. He's like, yeah, you should give this talk. So then, I basically talked about there's this the security feature I added is called trusted proxy auth mode. So like I don't know if you've ever used OpenClaw, but the defaults are like when you set up auth, it's just you hard code a token and then it's like saved in the query string. And typically this is not something you should do on the internet. This is if you're on a private network or maybe people use that with Tailscale.
Mm-hmm.
But like part of my job, is DevRel is like, hey, can I secure this thing with Pomerium where I work? So, of course I tried to secure OpenClaw and I also wanted to learn about it. And then, so basically I got it secured with it. And then I proposed, it is a generic feature. Like it wasn't like just a Pomerium feature because that I don't think would fly. And that's just not being a good netizen anyways in terms of open source. So
You built just a
open up an
pure
issue.
security feature into OpenClaw directly.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So I opened up the issue and then Peter, this was like, it's funny. I opened this issue and it was like issue, I think 1700. And then like, I think I went on vacation and I came back and then all of a sudden the issues and PRs were at like 15,000 and he had replied and he's like, yeah, no, let's do this. And then, so basically I started off my first foray into OpenClaw was like, I got it set up on my home network. And then I have like a mini PC with some stuff for work. And I actually used OpenClaw to help me build out the feature.
Hmm.
And like people probably run into, like I gave my AI assistant too much permission. Like I added the GitHub CLI and then basically like nothing went wrong. Like we just basically, we looked at the spec, bit back and forth, built out the feature, started adding tests and stuff. And then I went to bed and I woke up and it's like, oh, I put up a PR for you. And I was like, no, it's like I didn't want, So I mean, should have known better, but basically, least privilege for that. So, anyways, I just put the PR in a draft mode, and then eventually, I think I had to close it and then reopen a new one because I couldn't edit it for some reason. I don't know why, but long story short, put up the PR. Peter reviewed it. This was like before like he could no longer really review PRs, I think. But and he's like, yeah, this is good. Let's do it. And then after it got merged, there was a couple bugs and also people have been improving that feature since. So like, not going to take credit for all of it, but it's a feature I use. Like that's how I have my OpenClaw secured now. And that's kind of what the talk was about. And then like how I build with OpenClaw. So it's kind of cool all around, like one, I didn't think I would get a feature into OpenClaw. And then two, I didn't think I'd be giving a talk about it. And then, and I use my OpenClaw every day now. So.
No, that's super cool. Have you used OpenClaw, Dev?
I tried using OpenClaw a few different times. I didn't really have a great experience initially in like most of them. It's not secure, not security wise. It's just like um, something that never quite like fully worked. And then I tried Hermes this one time, and it just like the first
Yeah.
time it worked almost flawlessly. And I was just like, okay, these people know how to build a product uh, in a much better way. Um, like it onboards without a lot of issues. It's pretty nice, and the
Mhm.
memory system, it's pretty good, honestly. So I've just been using that for a while. I used it for a few months. Um, and then I think now I'm kind of back to just using Codex. Um,
Okay.
yeah, because I
What do
just
you?
like the
Yeah.
UI better.
Yeah, Nick, what do you use your OpenClaw for?
Yeah. So I don't use it for the stereotypical stuff that everybody claims, like it does all my emails and all. Like, one, I don't know about you guys, but I don't have tens of thousands of emails. Like, I get more emails maybe on my work email for stuff, and I have like newsletter stuff, but like I I don't really like, I'm not at a scale with email that I need something to sort it all. I am gonna eventually, because I started putting all my newsletters on a separate Gmail account, and I'm gonna add like I'm gonna create a API key for Gmail where it's just read only, so that I can like basically aggregate stuff, because like I just don't have time to read all these newsletters either. So I'm gonna use the OpenClaw eventually to just say, summarize or pull out what you think is worthwhile based on like a skill I write, which is some criteria for stuff, and then
It's
just
actually a feature I'm
summarize.
kind of working on Auto Show, so we can chat
Oh,
about that
nice.
more
Okay.
later.
Cool. But the biggest thing I use it for is two things, mainly crons. So I use it for, because we're a security company at Pubaria, but my CEO is still like, I don't know, even like in our GCP at a sandbox, he's like, I don't know if I want OpenClaw in our stuff right now. So
Sure.
I basically do business in like competitive intelligence, and then I just literally copy it. I created this thing called ClawSpace, which is this. It's not, doesn't have to be OpenClaw specific, but basically it's a file explorer web based that I have secured with Pomerium as well. So like, but basically I added the Monaco editor, and it's just essentially dynamic file explorer. So if you add a new folder, it's going to pick it up, and then I can actually view files as markdown, or I can preview them, and the Monaco editor lets me edit them. So I could actually chat with my OpenClaw and say like, oh, I made some changes to the file, because you can obviously SSH in, do VI, and it's that's kind of clunky though, to be honest. So
Yeah.
I just went with the Monaco editor where I could do just enough stuff where it's actually useful to me. Like that's why I created it. So I use that too, and then I use it for crons for personal and work stuff. And then the other thing is I just kind of treat it like a ChatGPT or Claude AI in terms of just regular chat, asking some questions. And I got a little, not fancy, but like, like obviously like ChatGPT or Claude.ai, it gets your saved conversations. What I created was a hook. Anytime you do /new or clear, whatever conversation up until the last /new, it archives it all into a thread in a Discord server that I have. So I basically can retain literally the entire conversations. The only, and it's not exactly like a ChatGPT, obviously, but I can actually literally retain all of the conversation I had. Then, assuming I do a /new, because I could, if I forget to do it, then I'm just going to get probably a mix of conversations. But I find that useful too if I have to search stuff.
Well, I know you had Roselle on to talk about the entire CLI, and that kind of does that, right?
Yeah, well, that's kind of, yeah, in the context of like coding, yes, because it's like you have Git commits. They're called checkpoints, I believe. So you have Git commits, and then if you're using an agent or multiple agents, all those conversations up until a point where you say, I want to create a checkpoint, they're retained. I'm not sure how the integration works exactly in terms of pulling the convos, but from what I understood, yeah, you'll say like, this is checkpoint, and you give it a name. So it's not a PR. It's more, it feels like more like a snapshot in time of this is all the code I did up until this point that happened to be commits in Git, and here's the related conversations that got me to this point. So
Whereas
you can
yours is
definitely
just
do
a
that.
pure chat history.
Yeah, like it could be code related, but it doesn't have to be. So it's a little different in that sense. But like, there's also cool stuff like my old crew from Open Sauce, B Dougie and John. They're working on some cool stuff over at Paper Compute.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got some stuff like tapes.dev and stereo, and so like, not sure what the status of things are. I grabbed a coffee with B Dougie last week, but like the tapes.dev repo is, I'm pretty sure that's open source, and it's like the version I last used, it would basically proxy like all your calls, like assuming you had like a API key for like say Anthropic or OpenAI, and because they proxy it, they can, if they were basically, the last time I used it, it would, you could obviously slurp up your conversations, and then it could use embeddings to, you know, like to make your past conversations searchable. I think that's the kind of the state of where tapes.dev is. And stereo, I think, is like a bigger project. I haven't really messed around with that, but they're doing some cool stuff over there. So I would definitely keep an eye on that too. But yeah, like the main things are that's what I find useful for OpenClaw, and I do literally use it every day. You can definitely build stuff with it too, like the way I was doing it, like when I live coded a MCP app at the AI engineer in my OpenClaw, and I basically exposed a port that was secured with Pomerium, so like I wasn't worried about anybody, you know, breaking in or anything. But it was kind of, I think it's kind of cool where you're in your agent and you're just saying build me something, and it's kind of like, it's not even a deploy preview, it's just literally like I had like a dev server running, so like I could make changes, I could, you know, see in ChatGPT the MCP app change immediately, and I'm just talking in Discord to it. It was like a pretty cool flow, I think. And I don't know about either of you, but like I remember a few years ago, like, well, Replic's pretty big now, but like I remember when they first mentioned, hey, just code on your phone, and I'm like, why the hell would I want to do that? You know, like the DX would be terrible, like, and obviously different generations, you know, like they'll that's what they find normal probably, but also I'm kind of phone pilled in terms of like, you know, orchestrating and building things now. It's kind of neat. So I don't know. I see Dev nodding, so I feel like you've had a somewhat similar experience.
Yeah, I still don't have any of my agents set up on my phone yet, but I always, when I like go to bed, sometimes I'm like, man, I wish I could like finish this last prompt in bed. So that's like what drives me to, I'll probably eventually get it set up just for that reason.
Yeah, and that's it kind of brings like a nice tangent to, or not segue to, I've been using this tool called Herder. It's HERDR.dev if you want to share the link. But there's like, I tried, like I use Ghosty all the time. That's my go-to terminal right now. And I tried cmux.dev, and cmux is using libghosty, which is the same library that Mitchell Hashimoto built, so that you can just basically use UI in Ghosty, but you can like embed it elsewhere. So somebody basically kind of made a Ghosty where you could do horizontal panes as well, and also bring in browser windows and stuff. And that's cmux.dev. And I tried it, and it looks cool, but like I don't know why, because like, you know, before I was working in infrastructure security, you know, did a lot of application dev, a lot of front end dev. So like, you know, very graphical stuff. And for some reason, I'm like totally loving Herder, which is a TUI. You know, I mean, obviously, like I'm in Claude Code and stuff, and like CLIs for like agentic stuff. But for whatever reason, the TUI Herder, I don't know, it just clicked with me better than like CMux or something. And there's some like really cool features. Like I don't know if you've ever tried to paste an image and you're like, oh yeah, I can't do that. It's a remote agent. Like you just can't. And they solve that problem. So you have Herder running on your machine, so like acting as the client. but they have a remote mode, so you can actually, you're still running Herder locally, but then it'll SSH to your box where you have your remote agents, and you have to have Herder set up there, and it instructs you to do all this stuff. And essentially it syncs. And I think the way it works is they use SCP to copy over, like you do Control V, and then you're able to, I think it just sends the binary, it just sends the blob over the wire. And it's kind of neat because, like, I don't know. I mean, if you're using a remote agent, it is, I've done it so many times where I go to paste something, I'm like, God damn it. So, anyways, that's a cool feature on its own, but like, I could load it up, or if you want to load it up, Anthony or Deb, but
you should screen share.
Yeah,
I'll just say, in terms of everything you just talked about, all these different terminal things, I've heard people talk about all of them, and I hear about them on X a lot. I've been using Warp as my terminal for like 5 years now, pretty much since it came out.
Okay, yeah.
So I've never used any of these like super terminal heavy kind of things. I never feel like I have a good idea of what level of abstraction they sit at. People talk about combining them also, so I never really know like what's the terminal, what's the thing that adds to the terminal, and like, so
yeah.
And then Herder, what makes that different from all these? So I'm a total noob here, so feel free to go totally from physics.
Just let me log in. This is a Pomerium thing. This is just how I secure SSH, but this is just a workaround I do to use, because I use Pomerium to harden access to my SSH connections, but you can still use Herder. So I'm going to do Herder, and this is going to be a remote one. And
so just to step back, so what are you remoting into? Like, is this a dev machine you have set up on some hosting service, or like what is happening here?
This one here, I have too many PCs in my office. It's where I run a Kubernetes cluster. This is stuff I need to learn stuff for work. And of course it's not connecting now because it's demo time, but let's just go to regular Herder. So this is me loading up
to a machine that's on your own network. This is a computer you own, you're SSHing into.
Yeah, but it doesn't have to be. You could SSH to a DigitalOcean box, AWS, like wherever. As long as you can get to it, you can SSH to it. So this is it locally. So like I've been working on some interactive guides. There's tabs here. So I guess a couple of things. One, the theme, I just have this theme. It's kind of pumpkin-like. I forget what it is, but that doesn't really matter. But the cool thing is, so I'm not a tmux expert still, but if you do Control B, which is like tmux, and then I'm just gonna do question mark, and you can see all the things you can do here. So the first thing is, most of the things, like I know how to create a new tab and stuff or move around. That's fine. But if you're not like a keyboard person, it actually works with a mouse. So now I'm just clicking with the mouse and I can change panes, I can change tabs. So that's kind of nice too. I kind of started using that initially, but then I can do Control B and then I can switch. Of course, I forget what it is now, but what is it? No, I don't want to enable that. Okay, here, switch tab. How did I forget that? Work tabs. Yeah.
Sort of reasons why I always avoid any new things that has new key commands. Like, I got so many key commands I remember for so many things already.
Okay, yeah, it is. No, it was right. Okay, yeah, I don't know why it wasn't working, but so I can just switch over here. I can do Control B, switch to the other one. But again, like you can just click on the mouse if that's quicker, and then you're in the CLI and stuff, and then you can have different like kind of workspaces over here. But the other things that's kind of neat. So let's just open up a new one. Let's just call it. I'll go to, I don't know, I'll just make up something, YOLO. And let's just go to dev. Where am I? Okay. OSS. Nope. Where is my stuff? All right, hold on a sec. Let me just go this way. Dev, OSS. Okay, so this is just my own like website and stuff, but I can do stuff like I'll ask a question. What is this? Whoops. Let's load up Devin. And I'm just going to ask something silly like, what is the website made of? It's an astrocyte. That's not the point. The point is you can see on the left here in the panes, you see it's working. Other ones are idle. And if it has to ask me something, it's gonna, you won't hear it, but it'll make a noise like a chime or something. You can change it, but you can kind of be doing stuff and then you can kind of just see like, okay, that one's idle, this one's working. And then like if there's a question, it'll prompt me. So like, let's see here. Let's just say, convert this Go project to TypeScript. I don't know. Let's just see what it says. It's probably going to ask me a question. I'm just waiting for it to make a noise so I can like see. It's razzle dazzling at the moment.
Do you use Devin frequently?
I started using it. I ended up buying. Okay, here. I'll talk about Devin in a second. But okay, so I just heard a chime and it said blocked. So then I can come over here. Oh, it's asking me something, and then I can respond. But this one's still going, and if it has a question, or this one's idle. So I find that useful because you can be doing stuff, and then I just hear that little. It goes like, dang, and then I can just go, oh, something's going on. Let me go back in, because then I can be doing other stuff. That said, I don't know about either of you. I'm not running like 1,000 agents or anything. Like I know like, you know, Anthropic or StyPeter are doing that, but I really don't know a lot of people aside from them that are like even running more than 10 agents, to be honest. Like I'd say most
probably 4 or 5 at a time, and that's just because I'm, you know, just multitasking between
different
projects.
Yeah, like I think the most I've run is like 5, and then those things might run sub agents, but like actual agents themselves, like the work I'm doing, I don't need to spin up 100 agents or 1,000 agents.
Like you'd only really need that if you're doing like a large scale refactor. It's like a very, very specific kind of workload.
Yeah, well, that's like all things AI keeps changing, right? First it was prompting, then it's context engineering, and then it's Ralph loops. Now it's just loop engineering, and now apparently loop engineering is dead. It's all graph stuff now. Like it's like
a joke that's being memed into existence.
Pretty
much.
But
the thing I find not weird, but that's different is because like we've all obviously worked in the JavaScript ecosystem. A lot of churn in there at certain points. And
yeah, we're used to
it. But you know, it was overwhelming. But then like at one point I'm just not going to try and keep up with everything. I'll skim stuff still, like when things happen, but when I really need to dig in something, I'll do it. This is like the JS ecosystem, but I find it's a lot more different with AI because a lot of times when things change, you probably should be paying attention. And I'm not that I'm a really stressed out person, but I find it causes a lot of an anxiety in people. Like there's the general joke about not going to make it, but when it's literally changing all the time,
there's more opportunity cost to not switching than there was from going from one JavaScript framework to another.
You know, but that said, like I don't know about either of you, but like, you know, I'm living in this Twitter bubble where the constant churn of like AI practices. You go out, you know. You go touch grass and then you go grab a beer with somebody who doesn't work in your field. And they're like, yeah, we just got Copilot on our Microsoft 365, you know, like, so, you know what I mean? There's like such a weird disconnect, you know what I mean? Like, and like, obviously not all those people are necessarily doing software development, but like, it just, I don't know. I just find, you know, that
I mean, I was at my wife's her gym had a party, like an annual party this weekend that I went to, and I was talking to this one lady, and she had never even used ChatGPT, not once, never used it. Yeah. So it's like, you know, it's where a lot of people are at.
Yeah. So like, you know, for all the not gonna make it jokes and like feeling behind, I still feel like relatively up to date. You know what I mean? But it's still
just by the nature of doing what you do and being a content creator, being interested in the new stuff and paying attention to social media, you're gonna be like you're Malcolm Gladwell had like a term for people, or maybe it was Adam Grant, in terms like the influencers, like you're the person that you learn about stuff and then people learn about it from you, you know?
Yeah, and there's obviously bigger people than us, but I really like, I don't keep up with all of it, but I really like a lot of the stuff Dex Horthy talks about. He seems pretty knowledgeable, and
Say that again.
Dex Horthy, his avatar on Twitter is like this comic book face, but he's got like a nice, well, he has a real twirly mustache in real life, but
he kind of
seems super
coined
cool.
context engineering as a term.
Actually, he was on the Pragmatic
Yep,
Engineer podcast. Yeah, but I honestly don't really know him. But when I was in San Francisco last year, anytime I'm in San Francisco, I just try to attend as many things as possible, and I ended up at AI Tinkerers and some ex Netlify, like the guys from Astra, because they're ex Gatsby, ex Netlify. Sam was giving a talk, and then but Dex runs the AI Tinkerers in San Francisco, and so that's where I first met him. I mean, I only talked to him briefly, but he seemed super cool and chill, and he's like, oh, yeah, come on in and stuff. And but he's got a lot of great insights. Swix, obviously, I listen to the Leighton podcast pretty often too, but
Matt Pocock, definitely.
Yeah, what is it? It's no longer Grill Me. I forget what his skill is now. It keeps
Wayfinder, I think.
Yeah, but
yeah, I haven't used any of his skills. I just find it interesting seeing his process of how he creates them and his like workflows and stuff.
Yeah, well, it's like, yeah, like, and obviously he's a excellent teacher as well. But I find, like, for skills, like, so for example, like I've been building out these interactive content guides, and like as I build them out, it's like, okay, yeah, don't do this next time. Like I basically started off with a pretty bare bones skill. I call it just my interactive content skill. And then like as I've been doing things, or I discover things about the platform I'm working in, it's like I keep adding stuff to it. And I've also created a rubric, so like the skill will run, and then it'll evaluate like the next piece of interactive content I'm writing based on the rubric. And then like I kind of do, I'm not alone in this, I know, but like when I finish a session and like I go to commit stuff, I'm like something along the lines of like, what did we learn in this session? Is there anything we could put in the rubric or in the skill? Just kind of a rinse repeat. And then not just for interactive guides, but for anything, like the more you improve those things, I find it's just easier to crank out stuff. But that said, it's just a markdown file, and it doesn't mean that your LLM is going to adhere to it or your agent. It's like,
right, yeah, you have to have a way of actually testing it and figuring out whether the skill is working or not and how to keep it up.
Yeah, like generally I find it does everything that's in the skill for me, but you know what I mean, it's not guaranteed. Like, so, and it is kind of funny that like the world is all built around markdown files at the moment. So.
It really is, yeah. Yeah, I have a couple skills I've been using with AutoShow, because like the CLI it's really good for like deterministic kind of stuff, but there will be some times where I'll have a certain task, like I have this OCR extracted PDF text that has like a couple weird artifacts in it, and I needed to just like fix a couple of those weird artifacts, like pull out page numbers or stuff, and things that it would be hard to write a script to do. But if you just get an LLM to look at it, then it's good. So I'll write skills where it will like first do all the CLI stuff to like extract out the text, but then do a final polish so that it's ready for text to speech. So I find it's good for when you have a bunch like scripts kind of workflow. There's a couple pieces that need to connect them that are harder to automate. If you put all of that in a skill, then it's good, because that's mostly just running scripts, and there's only a couple places where it has to actually step outside, like do agent type stuff.
Yeah, no, it's I definitely find the skills super helpful. I also use MCPs, not for everything, but there's some key ones I use. Like So I have a newsletter. I'm not on a paid plan with Beehive. Just it doesn't make sense for me to pay for it right now because I don't have enough subscribers. Like the $49 a month or whatever would just not be worth it. But they still have an MCP and I can use it for read-only stuff. So I use it to just, I can say like, oh, how did it, like, I can obviously go to the dashboard and I can see like the metrics and stuff. But I also use it to just like, as I'm building out new ones, like I can say like, let's see, why did this one perform so well over the other one? Because like generally I have pretty good open rates. They're like, it's always over 40%, usually closer between 45 and 50%, which
pull up
is
your newsletter since we're talking about it.
Yeah. Nothing to hide here.
It's a tip of the week.
Yeah. So I got Ice Cube in the background playing on my Spotify here. Where are we at? So yeah, no, this is it, onetipaweek.com, but this is not so much what I want to show. It's more the actual dashboards. So like I was saying, I don't have a lot of subscribers yet. That said, it keeps growing. I'm happy with it. I'm not like stressed out about that or anything.
I'm a subscriber, a loyal reader.
So you can see here, like a lot of times, there's always like in the 40s here. Like, see, this one was like 50% open rate, which I've spoken to other people that have dev newsletters or even newsletters in general. And like, these are kind of insane numbers for open rate. And
I mean, open rates on a lot of newsletters and just email campaigns in general, usually like 10% or less.
Yeah. So like the open rate,
spam and junk in their emails,
Yeah. So the open rates are all pretty good. The click-through rates are generally pretty good, but there's some low ones. So like here, and this is kind of like, this is where I did some digging. I'm like, this one was like pretty low, 5.56% click-through rate. But notice that the open rate was still really good. So it's not like people are just like, I'm not opening the newsletter. And I kind of deduced with chatting with my agent that this one here, this was a tool called Meez. It allows you to just, I know you both used MVM or FNM or whatever you use for,
it's
or
really
even
a lot of different language runtimes.
Yeah, exactly. Like my Astro site, I'm using Vite Plus at the moment, but like, yeah, Meez is really good if you're like, if it's like multi-language typically, or people that aren't in the JavaScript ecosystem, like somebody in the Go or Ruby ecosystem might use this. But I was like, I just couldn't figure out like, why did this one not pop? And came to the conclusion after chatting with the agent that I gave away too much in the title. Like that's what it seemed to be, because we compared it to other titles in the like other posts. Like if we come here, like like here, this one, stop typing so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, and the open rate's like 16.85. The other thing I've noticed is sometimes, because like I'm not trying to do just like JavaScript tips, because like, yes, I did a lot of Node and TypeScript and just front end, but I'm trying, the audience really is any developer. And I think sometimes some of them are maybe too non-UI specific. And I think that's why sometimes they don't do as well. They still get a pretty good open rate and stuff, but my point is, like with the MCP, I've been able to just kind of dig into the stuff and figure out. And like, I do have a structure to them now. Like if you, like it always starts the same, this week's tip of the week is, and then I have the link to the thing right away. I try to keep them not too long. And then like it always wraps up. Sometimes there's screenshots if it makes sense. And then usually like a quick how to install, and then it wraps up like that. And I'm mentioning this too because like Dev was saying, like Dev's getting back into doing video content. He's like, maybe the newsletter, it's a less of a lift, and I think it can be, but like this newsletter is doing, like, if I go back, like I tried 2 other newsletters at one point, and it was just literally like links from the week about something going on around the web. And the problem with that was like people already do that. So I was basically a copy of that probably. And
That's what I did for
also,
JavaScript Jam. The only thing I really
yeah,
add is I would write kind of like a longer summary of like a big topic, that would be kind of the
yeah.
draw.
But like it was also very stressful. Like it would hit like Saturday night and I'm like, oh shit, I don't have enough links still. And eventually, like if something's not working, like whether that's a process or at work or something, you reevaluate with your team. For me, this is like obviously just me, but I was like, this isn't working. I'm like, get stressed out about doing this all the time. It's not fun, basically. And so I just stopped the newsletter. I did this is the last one, blah, blah, blah. And then I wasn't going to do a newsletter again. And then I was chatting with, do you know Saran Yitbarek? She used to she owned Code Newbie.
No, I do not.
Okay. Anyways,
actually, wait, I think I might actually.
She works at Apple now, but on the Safari team. But anyways, when I worked at Dev2, we acquired Code Newbie. That's how I knew her. And then she started
did a
this
podcast, like the Code Newbie podcast.
Yeah, exactly. And
No,
they had
she's
like
great,
Twitter.
actually. Yeah, that was a really good podcast.
Yeah. So like after all that, she was trying other things, and then she created this like paid Discord, and I subscribed to it, and it was just like other creators, and like we'd catch up every now and then. And that was all good and stuff. And then I remember I don't know why we're talking about newsletters at some point, but like Kelly Vaughn was in that community as well. And I just put the question out there.
Podcast, right?
Yeah, exactly. And she's an engineering manager over at Zapier now, I think. But like I was like toying with the idea, like what if I had like 1 tip a week, because I was thinking like that's just more digestible in terms of consuming it, but also like me actually doing it. There's obviously, you have to try and find something really good though. So there is that. And at first I was like, maybe it can just be any kind of tip, like dev tips sometimes, or maybe, I don't know, this is how I fixed my window. But then she's like, no, just keep it focused on dev stuff, And so I did that. I'm trying to keep this story short, but basically I was like, okay, yeah, I'm going to do one dev tip a week thing. And the things that I think have made it successful so far was I queued up about 10 of them before I even started the newsletter, like the first one. That gave me a 10-week buffer. And then I would, now I've kind of, my buffer is kind of gone. I usually have 1 or 2 now, but like, but that allowed me to not be stressed about it. Sometimes I would even change them. And now it's actually enjoyable for me, and I'm happy that people like it, and that, the stats don't lie about that, but it's just more enjoyable for me. And I found, I think, what's a good formula, which is 1 hopefully good tip about development in some capacity. So,
Are you subscribed to Dev?
Oh, no pressure, Dev. That wasn't the whole point of this story.
I was definitely subscribed at some point. I think at some point recently, I kind of like purged everything. So I literally like unsubscribed to almost every single thing that I was, especially if it was AI related, because I felt like
it's too many.
The anxiety thing that you were mentioning earlier, there's a decent bit of work I had to do in the last few moments to kind of like cut it out, because it was getting pretty bad. And I realized that it's trying very hard to keep up with every single little thing that happens in the AI world. It's stressful, like you mentioned. It can be beneficial for sure, but I think in general, like if you missed like 6 to 7 months of like even if you were completely living under a rock, let's say for 6 months, and 6 months
Yeah.
later you came into the like AI and like AI agentic space, you could just like learn what's happening now and you'll be completely fine, because anything that you learn today will be obsolete in 6 months. So
Oh yeah,
keeping up
totally.
with every single thing, like it's helpful to see the patterns of how things are evolving, because there's a lot of like repeated repeated like things there. But you don't necessarily need that. You can just come like a few months later and like, okay, what are people doing now, let me start there. That's it.
Yeah, and people are always going to be tweaking these things, and like,
Yeah.
you know, it's kind of like, you know, configuring your editor on steroids, kind of. But like, you know, and like I forget who it was. I don't know if it was Mario, who's like the creator of the Pi harness, but like
Yes.
everybody's got these elaborate setups for
Mm-hmm.
their AI workflows. And then it was either him or maybe it was Dylan Mulroy, who's over at Cloudflare now, just like, just use the, you know, just use the harness and see how far you get, you know? So like there could be a lot of theatrics in there too. I generally do think skills are useful and the MCPs I use are useful, but like maybe there's potentially some over engineering of AI workflows. So
yeah, the layer that I do really want, that I do really think matters, is like the structural, the framework layer. Like for example, kind of the like we need to give it better primitives. Like Autoshow is a great example of that, which is like it's just a bunch of different ways to manipulate content that are like given provided as primitives that you can just use and combine however you want. Spectre is kind of like one of my ways to kind of like I guess advance that front. I think Solid is another one. Like there's recently been some talk about Solid and Remix 3 of like how much an agent likes it. Like I think Kent had his agents provide like a review of what reusing for Remix 3 has been like.
okay.
And like as hilarious as that idea sounds like, I've actually been doing that with Solid 2.0 today, and I think I'm getting some pretty interesting results. So yeah, I was wondering like, okay, that you were talking about a lot about like your general like what you kind of do with stuff like OpenClaw outside of coding. But what about the coding task? Like what frameworks are you using? What have you found that works better for agents or not worse for agents?
Yeah.
Like
so
in terms
like,
of tech stack, how has agents affected your choice of tech?
yeah, so where I'm at right now, I am a DevRel. So like our main product, it's all written in Go. There is some front end bits to it that is all React. I've helped, not just me, but I've made the nudge to get us to move to Vite, because like some of it was on Webpack still. There's a lot of Redux and some stuff, which is not necessarily a bad thing, you know, like they're proven patterns, and I think, you know, the LLMs have definitely slurped up Redux, so it definitely knows reducers and all that stuff.
It sounds like a very 2018 React stack.
Yeah, well, the project started in 2019. It got open source then. So like basically the software is it's called an identity-aware proxy, so it's very network centric. So like Go is a reasonable choice for that, obviously. So that's why like the stacks in Go. But like I think them picking React back then with Redux was probably sensible, because like I started using Redux in 2017. So like I'd say 2017 to like obviously people still use Redux, and it's been like there's RTK now, like Ace Mark's done a lot of work there and stuff. But I'd say like if you're starting fresh today, like I'm a big fan of TanStack stuff, and I think it treats it pretty well, the LLMs. React is still king in terms of front end for LLMs with Tailwind. The thing that's interesting though is because like obviously you're on the Solid.js core team, it's JSX, so it probably gets some love, but maybe some confusion sometimes, you know, in terms of like all the stuff that we know about Solid, where it's like it's not always re-rendering. So maybe when it generates stuff, like I'm curious, like because I'm not using Solid at work, but how are you finding it with AI? Because that's kind of like the tech stack I'm working in typically, and if I'm doing demos or just building stuff, I will typically reach for TanStack Start right now, and I'll just stick with Tailwind and like Vite or even Vite Plus now. Astro as well, for like my own site, and like that Claw Space I was talking about, that's an Astro site. I basically forked my own site and then just started building from there just to keep a similar theme. But yeah, I'm curious how the LLMs are working with Solid specifically, because it is JSX, but it is a different, you know, it's a reactive, it's a different framework basically under the hood.
Yeah, honestly, so I actually have not gotten a lot of time to do UI work recently, so I haven't
Okay.
like I experience. I think Anthony has done more work, more like Solid JS building than
I've done
I
a
have
lot, yeah.
recently. Yeah,
Okay.
he's a much better person to ask. I think my kind of experience is limited to like, hey, go and build this UI, just make it work.
Yeah.
And it works. Like I haven't run into any issues with it using Solid. But I'm sure like if I spend more time and spend more time investigating and like trying to improve the UI, I'm sure that'll give me a lot more experience of like where are the actual like DX edges where it's hurting agents or where they're getting confused, and how that can be improved. Because I'm certain that it's not like whatever the confusion problem is, ultimately it can be fixed with some level of context engineering. We just need to figure out the right set of examples to provide it, so that it's kind of primed that, hey, whenever it's writing JSX, it's not in React mode, it should be in Solid mode. And I think a good set of examples is like the perfect thing to have in context. But yeah, I want to hear some real world reports about that from Anthony.
Yeah, so the two biggest things that I hit were, and this is like, probably over a year ago now, that I was kind of like really, really deep in it. So the agents now maybe slightly better in the better models, but sometimes they would get confused just about like, state management. Like I had a big global store where I was mostly managing everything. And then sometimes I would have like a new toggle that I would have to add. And then it would like create some weird kind of one-off state that would then get lost in the sauce. And so I had to like kind of say like, hey, actually, no, you need to be using the state in this kind of way. And that was just kind of me not reviewing the code close enough to see when it was like stepping outside of what it should have been doing. And then it would, and this is a kind of general problem, I think, with a lot of open source libraries, it will kind of err on older conventions, like things that are more in its training data. So it will do a lot of like the things that, because you've had Solid 1, has changed over time. Like things like create async are a lot bigger now than they used to be, and create resource and stuff. And then those are going to change even more with Solid 2. But it was using more of kind of like just a more front end centric way of doing things, and using more like on mount. And what else? There was like a certain like is server. I kept using is server from the Solid JS web thing, which is like a really, really old way of doing like server side stuff. So I had to like then kind of go back and refactor and rip all that stuff out and be like, point to the docs and be like, hey, so as Dev was saying, context engineering, I would just grab the docs, but only for the new stuff. And then be like, here, look at these docs. Don't do all this other stuff. Like, and then it'll say in the docs, it recommends what's, the new way, what's the deprecated way. So then it kind of got into a better mode. Getting to 2.0 is going to be interesting. I think that's going to be challenging to do with AI. Hopefully once it's stable, there may be like a specific skill that will have all the knowledge it needs, but that's probably going to be the biggest issue moving forward, is going to be the migration.
Yeah. I'm curious if, since you're on the core team, Dev, because like, for example, like there's definitely skills for React, like Vercel has like some front end skills. I like using, there's this skill called Impeccable, which is pretty solid.
I was going to say, that's the best thing I've discovered from your newsletter is Impeccable. Impeccable is amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty solid, no pun intended. But like, it- you know, I would assume framework authors these days are probably shipping or providing skills as well, or is that something the solid team's doing as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a bunch of things that can be done here that different frameworks are doing. I think Svelte and Angular have an MCP server. Um,
Okay.
I think some projects, yes, some definitely do have skills. We don't have any first party yet. The one that I've been looking for is TanStack Intent, which is basically it's a TanStack package that lets you kind of ship skills in as npm packages or within your existing npm packages.
Okay.
I feel like that's kind of a pretty good addition because then there doesn't need to be a separate skills library. We just include whatever documentation we need in the solid repo,
Yeah.
and you as a user will have TanStack Intent installed. Like we just instead of asking you hey, go install the solid.js skill, we just tell you go install TanStack Intent, and now the you will always have like the most up-to-date information, or your agents will always have most up-to-date information about solid because they just read the like what we publish in the node module. So the skills and everything are versioned with the source code, and they update with
Okay.
the source code as well. So it eliminates a lot of like the version control headache. um
Yeah.
and we don't have to like publish things to two different registries. It's just literally the same. Like when you install solid.js, you get the skills for them as well, without a separate thing, which is pretty cool. And at the same time, like TanStack, like if once you have TanStack Intent, then you also have like the built-in docs for all the TanStack packages because they ship with them, and anyone else. So that's something that I've been looking at. That I feel like um, if we were to ship like first party skills, it's probably
Mhm.
going to be as an intent package. It's probably going to be a skill MD as well,
Yeah.
because there's people that don't use um TanStack Intent, and like it's there are like better registries. We are now seeing like uh registries like Vercel, skills.sh like actually incorporate things like verified authors or verified publishers for skills, which
Yeah.
wasn't a thing a while ago. So it's really good that other repositories are catching up, or like other registries are catching up, but npm is already like pretty kind of like a battle hardened, uh, and it's pretty good to just rely on that. um, and I think in
Yeah.
terms of like what the skill content should be, uh, I think, as I mentioned earlier, like a good set of examples. I feel like giving just custom instructions and explanations is helpful, but ultimately, like even when we write regular documentation, we know that we need to include a bunch of examples on how to actually how these how these like code usages actually look like, what these use cases look like, how you would implement something. And I think that's
Yeah.
ultimately like I feel like we don't talk about that enough when it comes to like writing skills. Is that okay? It is markdown files, but within those markdown files, like we have to provide a lot of code examples as well. So we are not just going to be explaining things in plain English. We are actually going to be writing a lot of code that the model receives as context,
Mhm.
to kind of like clearly see how certain things are supposed to be implemented, and then it gets much easier for it to kind of like replicate that over time. um, and then the third thing there is that uh, a lot of times, like how you want your agents to write solid.js, you have to define your own opinions around like how you are structuring code, how you are like your own conventions, your architecture, your files, file system, things like that. I
Mhm.
think a, a huge like one of the biggest ways to kind of make agents better at like doing things in your code base is kind of like encoding your own opinions about how you write code, like above those libraries that you have, like solid.js. Like solid.js, it comes with a lot of features, but it's still like relatively low level. Like you need you need to have your own opinions on how you actually structure code within your code base and how you interface with Solid's APIs, what kind of like third-party libraries are you using, custom primitives, and how you're using them. I think those make a lot more impact than anything that like. I mean, yes, there should be first-party skills, but then there's going to be a lot of additional help if you just define how you like to work with Solid and how you like to organize your code.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. Like, because I also use examples in my skills too for certain things, for scaffolding. And also, like, you can even pull it. Like, the nice thing about things being open source is like you literally have the code. You know what I mean? Like, it's like it's kind of like a huge unlock. Like, even, I mean, you know, before it used to be like, oh, why am I getting this error? I used to literally look through source code. I'd be like, oh, this Webpack error. Oh, I can pull down Webpack and I can see where that error is, and then I can debug it. So I think that's one of the, you know, because there's some people been saying like open source is going to be ruined by AI. I don't think so, but like, you know, obviously there's AI slop out there, but I think it's super cool that you can provide all this context, which is the literal code with like, oh, okay, yeah, like, cause like maybe docs are out of date or something, you know, like this has happened to me. Our docs are generally in pretty good shape, but it's like I ask a question and it goes, oh yeah, I looked in the Go source code and, you know, this is why this is happening, blah, blah, blah. And then like we have an MCP as well now. I also use a Kubernetes MCP. And so like I basically have a read-only mode for my home lab cluster. And like you throw all those things together and it's like, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly. I think for me, the ultimate, like every time we have one layer of documentation or like explanation outside of the source code, that becomes like an extra thing that we have to maintain. The more of these layers you build up, like your docs and then your skills, like the bigger your skills are, it's just maintenance burden. So I feel like I really want to live in a world where most of the context that we provide agents is kind of derived from the source code, and like the best place to put documentation honestly is comments, because because it's like the most co-located with the code, and you can easily write scripts to kind of extract it from your source code and then present them into nice HTML, like HTML or Markdown pages, or like Markdown just context for agents somehow.
Yeah, it's kind of funny how like JS doc or even like Go generate, they all generate. I mean, obviously it doesn't necessarily translate to like feature documentation, but like API documentation or like API surface for sure. But it's but yeah, it's like it's a weird time too as well in terms of documentation, because like, I mean, I've noticed this, but also just talking to my good friend Becca, like you're no longer writing docs just for humans. Like LLMs need to slurp it up. So like we serve Markdown for LLMs now. I mean, we have an LLMs text, but like we also serve the pages as Markdown now. And then like obviously the human readable still. I mean, they're both human readable, but you know, HTML takes up more tokens. So like serving Markdown, and I don't know about either of you, but like I almost don't want to read docs now. I'm just like, I just speak to an LM. I got to set this up. Like this is what happened to me with Kubernetes. And for one, Kubernetes has amazing documentation. It's not that. It's just like, I remember All Things Open last year. I was giving a talk about zero trust security because Pomerium, and it's talking because it's open source or open core, and I was doing this in the context of Kubernetes. This is like literally the first time I'm setting up a Kubernetes cluster, and I'm just chatting with the LLM. I'm pointing it to our docs. It knows Kubernetes really well. It knows Go really well, and I just said like, because I literally did not have time to go really deep into our docs and stuff. I said, I just need to scaffold this. This is what I need, blah, blah, blah. And I got my whole environment set up for the demo, which was part of my talk. And, you know, that was a huge unlock for me. And like, I feel like nowadays, not even just like for agents to set up stuff, but it's just like, I don't want to go through all the steps. I know the agent can slurp all this up. Yes, don't read my API keys and stuff, but like, you know, like scaffold me this thing and then I'll fill in the holes, you know? And it's, I don't know if it's because like I've got TikTok microwavable brain now or what, but I just feel like the DX in terms of like kind of like when the .com era was happening in the 2000s, it's like, what do you mean you don't have a website? You know, like if at a certain point, if you didn't have a website, you're like just basically dead in the water. And I feel like there's a lot of table stakes stuff in terms of like, if your agent can't slurp up the thing to set this up or do a certain thing, you're going to kind of be left behind as well, you know, or at least that's the feeling I get. And I really do just like asking somebody to set something up, because it doesn't mean like I don't know anything. It's just like, this is a bit of a nuisance for me to set up. Yes, there's maybe more complex parts or nuance in certain parts that I really do need to understand. But like for the majority probably of things, you know, the agent should be able to do it for you. So I don't know. I see some nods, so I'm assuming that's a yes.
I think I agree. Dev.
Yeah, no, it's full agreement from me. Yeah, what else do we have to show off today?
Did you want to talk Spectre at all? Your newest?
Yeah, I want to see Spectre as well, because like Dev was on my stream a few weeks ago or a month ago. We were obviously talking a lot of Solid 2.0, but then we talked briefly about Spectre. So I guess like let's start from the beginning. For like, I heard a little bit about it, but like for folks who have never heard of Spectre, I guess, what is it and why did you create it?
Yeah, for sure. I think the way that I like to kind of like give the background for it is that spec-driven development is a fantastic idea. At its core, it just says that you like before you go and build something, you describe what you want at a higher level, and then you go like in some detail, and then you go and actually build it. It's a fantastic idea, but the way that people do it currently, which is like write a giant markdown doc and then like hand it off to an agent to implement, is like the worst possible way to actually do spec-driven development. So I'm just trying to like kind of like build something that actually gives you the full benefits of like writing a specification beforehand before you actually go and build something. And the kind of the goal with this is that when you write a specification, like most of the work should already be done before the agent even starts running. Like the agent shouldn't receive your specification and then a complete blank slate to start from scratch. The specifications themselves should provide some structure to your application and some guarantees and some executable like testing as well, so that once your agent goes to implementation, it doesn't have to figure out everything from scratch. It doesn't have to worry about glue logic. It doesn't have to worry about kind of like menial things. It can just like implement your business logic in these small incremental slices, and it automatically gets verified that, hey, the thing that you specified, does the application actually work that way? Like one of the biggest problems with AI code is that code review. AI can write code 1,000 times faster than us, and it can write 100 times faster than we can read and review it. So what if we had some way to trust what the AI had written without having to check the code? And what if the specifications could do that? Like once you have written a specification, it's guaranteed that the implementation will have the behavior that was in your specification. You don't have to review the code to check it. You might want to review it to see if the agent like implemented it or like efficiently, or if there are like better ways to do what the agent did. But you don't have to look at it just to see that, hey, does it follow the kind of behaviors that I've described, or does it have the features that I want? And does it handle the edge cases like I've specified? And you don't need to like sit through all the implementation code to figure that out.
Yeah.
And then one other thing was that I want things to happen in parallel. I don't run when we are talking about like running 1,000 agents at once. No, I don't do that. I think it's mostly a dumb idea. But if you can like break your code base down into a way where like basically vertical slice architecture, which means you build your business logic in independent slices that don't depend on each other. If I have 1,000 slices, I can have 1,000 agents in parallel implementing all of those slices without interfering with each other. Like that's actually like I haven't yet tried it out. It's something that I feel like at some point I'll make a quick video about that. I'll show off that I had 2,000 agents run in parallel at once to build this app. Like it would make a really flashy thumbnail, but it's not like and it will actually work, but it's not something that you want to do. But still, this ability to like break down implementation in parallel, where you can do them, you can actually like do things in a faster way not having to worry about that. These two agents are going to break each other somehow, because architecturally that's impossible. You cannot they will always be independent of each other. So what if we had guardrails like that just by writing specifications? That was a pretty long-winded intro.
No, it makes sense. And there's a couple of things that like I'm saying the obvious, but like people firing off 1,000 agents and going to Loop City, it is cost prohibitive. Like,
oh yeah,
like there is literally no student that is going to be able to do that, right? Like unless they're an intern somewhere where they just at like Anthropic or like OpenAI maybe, or some like I don't get metered for tokens at work, to be clear. And like we could probably do experiments like that. You know, and I'm not going to get blasted for doing that, but I think in general, like there's a reason like StyPete, he's pushing the limits and stuff. Like people are saying like, what the hell is this guy doing? But like, he's literally trying to see how far things can go. And like, he obviously like OpenAI is going to give him all the tokens he needs. Right. You know, he's experimenting with stuff. I mean, I remember like, at the AI Engineer Europe, they were saying, I forget his name, Popolo is his last name. He doesn't work at OpenAI anymore, but he's like burning an insane amount of tokens every day. But again, these are people pushing the limits, trying stuff, and like they're given access to be able to do that, right? And like,
or Jared Sumner burning 150,000 in Fable tokens to migrate Bun to Rust.
Yeah, that was an interesting one, because like I think the price tag ended up being like 165,000 US or something. And obviously Anthropic's gonna let him use the tokens, but it is interesting because like, you know, that's less than one engineer's salary probably in SF, right? Like, or maybe that's a junior salary. I have no idea what junior salaries are in SF, but like, you know what I mean? Like 165 in terms of like, let's just assume that was like one engineer in, I don't know, middle North America. You know, that sounds like a pretty good deal. Yeah, Kansas. You know, it sounds like a pretty good deal. And like obviously he ported it to Rust. And he did have like, obviously he had a lot of really good tests in place. Like he was originally trying to, you know, literally pass the whole Node.js test suite. So like, I think those things set that up for success as well. He's also a really good developer. You know, it's not.
I don't know. I heard that he actually sucks and doesn't know what he's talking about and is totally brainwashed. So,
all right.
He has been corrupted by money, by venture money.
Yeah, but like basically that whole like that was set up like he was in a place where he could do that, obviously, right? You know what I mean? Like, and it's also a cool experiment as well, you know, like if you forget the money for a second, like to your point, like Spectre, if you have good specs, if you have good like test, because there's like all these old practices that like are coming back. Like there was BDD, there's like cucumber and like gherkins. Like you define like all these things. Like the funny thing is everything's just coming back to writing English. It's just really funny. So like yeah, English and Markdown, you know, like that's your tech stack.
Yes. I think the point of cost is very interesting here because, and like everything about those ideas like BDD and I think a lot of it was motivated by like scaling engineering better, like getting juniors more productive, more effective, like quickly. And I feel like the way that that translates into the agent world is that you can have smaller models do better work, like for much cheaper. I think of one other of my motivations with Spectre is that if I can reduce the problem of like implementing a huge app into like implementing a bunch of these tiny well-specified slices with like strict tests, that means you can hand that work to a really small cheap agent.
Yeah.
Which means now you don't have one like a huge Fable model building an entire app. You can have like, if you have 100 slices, you can have 100 haikus build that app, and it will probably work just as fine because it has that all that deterministic setup around it that ensures that it works as expected. So that means you can actually scale development to much smaller, cheaper agents, and you can because you can work per slice. You can do this workflow where you have smaller agents implement a slice, maybe retry it, and if once or twice, and if one or two retries, the smaller model is not able to figure it out, you just delegate that part, that those slices to a smarter model. So this way, most of your app can be built by like cheaper agents, and then you only delegate the actually complicated part that the smaller models cannot figure out to the smarter models. So these type of workflows I am really interested in, because this way, if you decide to like run 1,000 agents in parallel, you're not going to be running Opus or like Soul or Fable, and you're going to be running much smaller models, maybe even open source models like Minimax or GLM. So that you don't actually like use your entire rate limits in like 5 minutes.
Exactly. I asked for a cookie recipe with Fable and Claude, and now I'm maxed out for the week.
Right.
No, I know what you mean, and it's I actually really like the open weight models. Like I've been using them. The reason why I started using Devin, that you asked this before, Anthony, was Nader, who's DevRel over there. He gave me like a $200 max plan a few months ago, and then you know, and then he was like, "Oh, here's another month." I don't have the 200 max plan now, just because. But that said, like it's really good. The thing is, it's like at work we have a Claude subscription right now, so like and like I can expense stuff all the time. It's not that. It's just if I said I want to expense a max plan for Devin, they're gonna be like, no, because we have Claude right now, and like we probably use OpenAI sub 2 at some point. But I have my own personal ones. Like I have just regular Anthropic for like Claude subscription. It's the $20 a month one, and then the same thing for ChatGPT. But I actually, after the 2 months of the 200 max plan, I found Devin really good in general. Like when you have access to open models, obviously there's other things that you can get that from too. Like OpenCode does that too with their plans. Yeah. I started using Command Code as well from Ahmad Awais, a fellow GitHub star. He used to have a company called, I think it's called Langbase, and then it's now called Command Code. But he has like a Go subscription. It's like $1 a month, and I've been using that periodically just to try out. But like I've found a lot of good success with Kimi K 2.6 and 2.7.
Funny enough, Kimi 2.6 is the best OCR model I've found, having benchmarked like a crap load of them. It just does, like, for the price comparison. Technically, Gemini 3.1 Pro is slightly better quality, and then potentially like Fable and 5.6 Soul as well, but those are so expensive. Like it's totally, you'd be just like $50 to like OCR, a book or something. Whereas with Kimi, you can do almost the same quality for like $2 or $3. So
yeah. But yeah, so like I've been using the open models through Devin. It's a pretty good plan. Like obviously the 200 max plan is way better because you just like the only time I broke the limits 1 week was like the last week I had it, and it's when Fable came out, and I just went to town with it. But like I've been really happy with Devin, and even the editor, like I just find it's very snappy. Like, obviously, like web stuff can be smoke and mirrors in terms of appearing faster, but I think it's generally just, it's very responsive and fast. Like even if you go to devin.ai, but I use the CLI as well a lot. But usually during my workday, I'm in Claude because that's what our subscription is right now. But that said, you can obviously use Claude and other harnesses with other endpoints, right? Like that's why you can proxy and stuff. But also like this tool I just installed today, it's called Native. I'm wondering if it should be a tip of the week because it literally is only for Mac OS. But basically, I can find the link. But it's essentially like if you use something like Ollama, which you can use on Mac and others, it's not using the native memory on
native NITIV, that one.
Yeah. So it's using like with the native thing, there's like I don't know how they do it because I have to read more about it, but they're literally using the unified memory directly on Silicon.
They use MLX models, it says.
Yeah.
I've read about a little bit for Whisper and stuff. I never actually used any of them.
So I just downloaded it like about 8 hours ago, and it's a native app. It's a Swift app. There's like, stuff like Ollama, stuff you would expect, like a chat interface. But it also has configuration and integrations with like Pi, OpenCode, Codex, Claude Code. So that's what I was going to look into next. But because I don't know, I feel people that are using these things a lot generally know this, but like there's still people, like when I did it as a tip of the week 1 week where like it was objectively a worse model by using a local model in Claude Code, but you can do it, right? Like you can load Ollama. It's just an endpoint, like, because at the end of the day, it's just I think everything respects the OpenAI responses API. Like that's kind of like become the de facto, I believe. So you can just wire in whatever there. You could literally wire in anything. You could even have you could even test the harness with mock data, I guess, in an API if you wanted to, roll up something. But anyways, the native thing looks interesting. I put the Qwen. What did I put on? I got the Gemma 14 billion, and what was the other one I put on? I just literally did this while we were talking, but yeah, I've got Qwen 3 14 billion. It seems a little slow. Like my Mac's pretty good. It's an M4 and it's got 48 gigs of memory, but the 14 billion, it was responding, but it was, just kind of like that, not like the snappiness people are used to. So I probably have to use a quantized model or a quantized version. Same thing with, I should try the Gemma. There's a 12 billion one, but anyways, it looks interesting. It's like literally I just saw it today though. So, and obviously there are requirements. It requires Mac OS 26. So if you're on an older Mac that you can't upgrade for some reason, I'm not sure how far back you have to go before you can't upgrade to 26, but it looks interesting basically.
If I had to guess.
Yeah.
Did you want to talk about your interactive guides before we closed it out?
Yeah, we could talk about it a bit. I did want to talk more about Spectre, but maybe we can do that.
We can keep talking about Spectre too. I mean, I don't have a hard stop. I don't know about you guys.
No, I'm good. I just got to pack at some point, but my flight's tomorrow at like 6:15 p.m. and it's
if you have more questions about Spectre for Dev, go for it, man.
Well, yeah,
I can do some live demo or at least
Yeah,
like to
that-
show off some
I'm
code.
gonna use the bathroom so you guys get that set up.
Cool. Yeah, no, that's what I was more curious about, because like the way you talked about it, you made it sound aspirational, but I know you're obviously using it as well. So like, just kind of curious to see like, because like yeah, because like you were saying, in theory, you know, if you have good specs and like you know, solid definitions of API surface and stuff, it should set you up for success. But yeah, just curious to see.
Yeah, but how would that work in practice? It's pretty tough. Like honestly, this is I didn't even come up with most of this. The first time that I saw all of this actually working was actually late 2024, which this thing called Auto, which was being built by the CEO of my last kind of consulting company.
Okay.
Yeah, he kind of built like a pretty ambitious, or he has been building a pretty ambitious version of it, and in some ways he has been building like it for, or this sort of like concept of specification to app to like working implementation since like for like over a decade. But he was building this AI version, which is basically like kind of what Spectre is since 2024. So what I'm doing is kind of like a more almost like a distilled or a different take on that.
Okay,
let
gotcha.
me share. No, not that. Share. Share screen. Okay. The interface kind of changed for StreamYard since I got access to stuff. Okay, you can see my screen?
Not yet.
Yes,
I think.
Oh, sorry. I need to add it to stay.
Yeah,
there we go.
Yeah, because you're driving now. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, now I see it.
Okay, so I have like a simple to-do app here. Let me see what the client looks like. The to-do app. So this is a solid app, and the to-do itself is not like you know what to-do apps are.
Yeah.
But basically, the way that Spectre is kind of like a specification framework for like really any kind of business logic. That the most typical use that you like most of the time you would be using it on your backend to behind like your API layer.
Okay.
So here I have like a simple client that like kind of an RPC client from the client from the solid app to my backend HTTP app, and basically there are queries. So I have this query called to do cheers. I have a query for its to dos. And then I have some commands. So like change to do completion, remove to do, add to do. These are commands, right? So kind of the API is kind of just queries and commands, which you might be pretty familiar with if you're coming from any sort of like a GraphQL or TRPC background, right? So this is where the actual business logic lives. The convention that I'm going with is src/features. It's open to change. It might be src.slices, but that's what I'm going with right now. And inside these features, we have these vertical slices. So, and each slice has an implementation.ts and a specification.ts, or like spec.ts, impl.ts. This is what the specs look like. So I have a spec for a command or a command slice. It's add to do. There's a description, and there's some scenarios that kind of define how the slice should behave. So the when is like the input that I give into the command. So if I call add to do with a to do ID of 1 and this ship it title, it should create this event of to do added, and this is the payload. I have another scenario where I give it the to do ID and some extra spaces, and it still creates, and it kind of like trims the spaces out of the title. So this is kind of how you can. It's kind of like different scenarios for unit testing. Like these are going to be turned into executable tests for the slice. So it's going to be given this input, and it's going to assert if the command created this event. I have another example here. So let's look at remove to do. So here we are using like some predefined state. Like if I have already added an event, like given that I've already added an event in the system, that to do added, if I try to run the remove to do command on to do one, it should give me a to do removed event. If I don't have any to dos in the system, it shouldn't do anything. And if I've already removed the to do, if I try to remove it again, it should do nothing, right? So this is kind of how we define the behavior of each vertical slice, or specify the behavior. And it's like, you can see it's just strings and objects. There's nothing too special here. And it's kind of intentional because Spectre is language agnostic. Like as a Spectre as a concept, like the implementation that I have here is in TypeScript, but I also have an implementation in Rust and another one in Go. And I'm actually currently building like an observability dashboard where it can consume messages from like any, like a TypeScript or Rust or Go, like any Spectre app, and it can show you like logs and things like that, or even like visuals of these specifications. Like you can turn these specs into diagrams. I haven't done that yet. Auto is like that's kind of where it started. But I want to turn these automatically into like flowchart diagrams that describe what your app is doing, and that can all be like language agnostic. The Spectre by itself is not like, it's just strings and like given when thens, right? That's what specs look like. And then for their implementation, like all you have to do is give it a schema. So this is the remove to do slice, the command. So this is what the schema is for input validation. These are apply handlers. So this is how we take events that happen in the system and update some sort of database. So so we take events and we update our state in some database. And then finally, when we are handling a command, like this is the command that came in from the front end, the remove to do request, we query this database that we were updating through our events, and we return new events that will be applied. So this is kind of like how you implement each slice. And these slices never import code from other slices. They only import code from your libraries. Like here I have my ORM and my event and my schema. That's my events, which are just definitions. Like it's just the events are just like Zod schemas. They don't have any behavior in them. And then I import the specification that I defined in the spec.ts file. So each implementation or each impl.ts file remains fully independent, and you just query them from your front end.
Okay. I think one thing that would be interesting is because I've hung out with Fabian Hillier before, a couple times. So we talked about the things he's working on, Formish and standard schema. I wonder, like, because you want to keep Spectre agnostic to language, obviously.
Right.
I think replacing Zod with standard schema might be a good move potentially, because then, like, obviously you can still use Zod. You could also use why is Fabian's
Valibot?
Valibot, thank you.
Yeah.
So
Valibot, Valibot's great.
So you could use either of those, but also
initially, so I was using standard schema for the slices, but I think the direction that I ended up going in very recently is that validation is completely kind of an implementation level concern. And so in the spec.ts, I don't have any schemas here. I just have these like examples, like every object that you see in here is like an example input and example output. There are no schemas here. Schemas simply become a part of the implementation. Which means like whatever language you're implementing in, you can use literally whatever validation that you want. Like the TypeScript version of this is using standard schema. I actually did not know that standard schema is agnostic to like different languages. I thought it was more of a like JavaScript or TypeScript specific thing.
I mean, I think it is JavaScript specific at the moment because Colin from Zod and Fabian worked on it together, but I'm not sure if it's in general. Like, I think there might only be a TypeScript implementation in standard schema. As funny as that sounds, but I think it's
expect so, yeah.
yeah, I think that it's more the spec idea in general, but
Yes.
yeah, to your point, it's because I saw you had Zod there, but sorry, that was like the actual implementation. That's why I got thrown off.
Yeah, I think there's like a decent bit of like getting familiar with Spectre is like knowing the difference between these two, spec and implementation. Like the spec is the thing that we consider the authoritative source of truth. Like if you think about it this way, when you're browsing through this folder, the spec.ts is what you want to be looking at and reviewing. The impl.ts is like something that you can completely forget about. As long as you have looked at these spec.ts files and you understand and align with like these scenarios, you don't even need to look at the implementation. That's something that is now the concern of the agents. Like they have to look at these specifications and they have to come up with they have to write or write all this logic, the impl.ts. And what will happen is that once they write all of this and they go and run pnpm run test, it's going to take this implementation logic and test it against all of these scenarios. And if any one of them fail, it's going to tell the agent like, hey, this scenario doesn't pass, right down to the description and everything. And then they go back and update all of this implementation until every scenario here is passing. So and another way to look at it is like, imagine you have a brand new code base, or like your agent is like brand new to a code base and it's trying to understand how it works. It can simply look at all the spec.ts files and gain like a complete broad understanding of your entire application without actually having to look at all the code. Because right now, if you ask an agent to do something, it will just look through all the files and it can go pretty deep because it has access to all the files. But if you ask it for like a broad understanding of how everything kind of fits together, it cannot really do that without like literally looking at every single file, because usually implementation is tangled like that. But here you can just have either, if you are trying to understand the code base, you just look at the specs. If an agent is trying to understand what this code base is and like what this app is about, it just looks at the specs. And ultimately what I want is that these specs you translate into something more natural language friendly or more visual, so that you give it to a non-technical person and they can understand what this app is doing. They can just like look at these scenarios in a more visual format and come up with more that, oh, this is an edge case that we haven't handled yet. And you don't need any technical knowledge to be like kind of looking at and trying to understand these specifications, because they are all just domain knowledge. Like when a to-do is added and I try to complete a to-do, it should complete that to-do. And if it's already completed, it should not complete that to-do. Like this is just kind of business level knowledge that non-technical people should be able to kind of contribute. And then we just have agents implement everything until like it automatically gets turned into tests without touching the agent. Like that's a deterministic guarantee. It's not an agent is not writing these tests. They are automatically there because you wrote these specifications.
Yeah, and so the specifications generate the test, right? Or are you writing the actual tests still right now?
So it's more like there is a test script. Let me actually so I have these scenarios.test.ts. This is like the file that vtest is going to run. And all I have to do is like the Spectre, like I export this helper from Spectre, test slice implementations, and it literally like you provided your slices, you provided your your implementation, and it like dynamically goes through every single case. So it's the test code is not being generated. Like the test code is just this, but let me explain like this. The test code has like a for loop that goes over each of these objects. It literally like takes these events, it calls your implementation like handlers with those events and to put them in the right state. And then it takes this value, it calls your handle function with that value, and it sees if the return event, like it's almost like testing pure functions.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's just looping through all these scenarios and it's testing them one by one at runtime. They don't need to be generated. Like one of the things that I was really trying to avoid was code compilation or code generation. I just hate doing that sort of work. If something can just be imported and like you can iterate through some data structure at runtime, I just want to do that rather than relying on I'm not one of those like no build people that like I don't want to use TypeScript or JSX because like I don't like build steps. But I don't want to build, like I don't want to be the one writing more build steps or adding more build steps in your workflow. The less build steps you can have, the better. And I feel like an agent is a great build step. You just you just tell an agent that, hey, once you write the slice, go and import it in the correct file. That said, the way that Tanstack Router has a Vite plugin that automatically registers your route. Like whenever you create a file inside src/routes, it's automatically going to add it to your TypeScript definition, everything. That's the kind of thing that I eventually want. That as soon as I create impl.ts or spec.ts in my features folder, it automatically registers it in a bunch of places so that you have additional type safety and you get even more guarantees basically. But I don't have. Everything happens at a runtime right now. There's no code generation step.
Okay,
There can definitely be one.
Yeah, no, gotcha. Yeah, it's the route gen tree. I remember Fresh from Dino did that too. It makes sense. Like scaffold what you can with some deterministic tools, and then outsource the non-deterministic stuff that hopefully becomes deterministic because of the deterministic stuff you scaffolded. But okay, yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, so like in an ideal world, we got Spectre, we literally spec it out. Long term, hopefully it can scaffold the shell of the impl and the spec, and then it'll literally just build it. And then from there, the quality of the implementation is based on whoever's building it. They provide skills, they have their own guidelines, like every org would have their set of skills and coding standards, etc. And then the test would have to pass because it'd be going through the loop until all these things pass. And then I guess once that initial step's done, that's when you validate is this garbage or not, potentially, like in terms of implementation. Like it works, but to your point, like, okay, yeah, this went through a 4-layer loop versus something else, like but even that, with those things, like where you're like, okay, that implementation's bad, that's probably where you would improve your coding standards or like provide better example. Like it's kind of like the rinse repeat, and things should eventually hit this inertia where it's in a good place, and then you feel pretty confident, I guess. And then you would have this in a CI/CD pipeline, maybe, so then it's like, okay, app's ready. And I guess, at least for now, like the focus for this is obviously back-end related stuff, because like for the front end, it's probably possible, but just probably a lot more work, especially because you've got visual stuff, there's like a different category of things you'd have to validate, but no, this is super cool.
So I think for the front end stuff, I think this how Spectre would work would kind of be like where you would fit in X state today. Like for the kind of like, this is a very state machine kind of way of thinking. Like like a state machine. What is a state machine? It's a state and current state event, and you give the next state. This is basically a state machine. This is like, here's the event that happened, here's my current state, and I'm going to mutate this. I'm going to like basically run some insert statements on my database, which is basically a way of like providing the next state. So all of these are state machines. This, instead of like writing to a SQLite database, it could just write to like an in-memory JSON, and kind of like how XState works.
Yeah.
And that's how you would use it on the front end. I actually don't have any examples for this right now, but the way that I'm building Spectre is that it has literally zero opinions on your infrastructure. Like this, this spec.ts doesn't say anything about what database am I using, what server am I running it behind. It's literally just like some specification of behavior. The implementation here is using SQLite, but it could very well just be using completely in memory. And now I have all of my business logic on my client side fully specified and tested and validated. And it kind of works similar to how Redux or XState, where you would specify like each mutation, you would have specified them here. And then you would also have tests for them.
Yeah.
So I don't have any specific examples for that, but that's how this would kind of work with on the front end.
Oh yeah. No, I wasn't asking for examples. It's more just like what you're thinking, kind of. But yeah, no, it makes sense, and it's like it's just, you know, everything comes back to structured inputs and outputs, and like as David K. Piano would say, it's all actor model. But
exactly, yeah.
No, but it's cool, and obviously I know it's early days and stuff, but no, yeah, it's like, yeah, it's kind of funny because like.
Yes.
Oh, what's that?
So this is what I just released today. The new website. It's super
so
vibe coded.
What's new?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. I was gonna ask
so I published this website. It's super vibe coded. Okay, can you hear me? I think
you're good. Yeah, you need a code highlighting still on your front end.
What's the one? Shiki is probably good. So
he has a lot of code examples on his homepage. So
okay, yeah, I used to use Prism, and then I think it's Antfoo's wrote Shiki.
Yeah, I use that.
I think that's what I'm using in Astro right now, but yeah, no, it's super cool, and it's like.
Oh, am I back? Yeah,
you're good.
Back. Go for
it. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. There's a bunch of examples in here. I still need to actually improve the website a lot, but I also have some docs for it. Basically, 0.3 is the version of Spectre that's now like that you can find on GitHub. There is like a npm create Spectre that you can use, but it's like an older version that I haven't updated yet. I still need to do that. But if Spectre is something you want to try out, literally like I think that's what I said here. Give it to your agent. Just ask your agent to just ask your agent to clone and summarize, and it'll let it explain to you what Spectre is. And you like we were talking earlier about like you were saying you don't go to the docs much, and I kind of feel the same thing. Like if there's some new project that I found cool, I don't spend too much time on its website or documentation, especially if it's open source. I just find the GitHub. I go to Codex and like, hey, clone this and explain to me what this is, how this works, and how I can use it. That's it. That's honestly the best way to get started with Spectre if anyone is feeling up to it. And I would love to hear feedback. There's a lot of issues with this right now that I'm kind of trying to push through. One of the things I'm building with this is a fork of T3 code. So I basically cloned T3 code, and I sent an agent like, hey, rebuild this in Spectre. And I think one of the reasons why T3 code is like a pretty good fit, like experiment for this, because T3 code already follows like the event sourced CQRS kind of style architecture that Spectre kind of like does as well. But it doesn't have like all the same kind of like agent friendly kind of benefits that Spectre provides. So I think so I've been trying to and like obviously it's open source, which is a great thing for agents, because I can it's much easier to like fork and customize versions of software according to what you need when things are open source.
Yeah, totally. No, it's super cool, man.
Thanks.
Cool. I can show briefly because I know we're getting a little late here, but
Yeah, like 5 minutes or so, then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah. We can do a speed run here. But yeah, so basically, I've been building out these interactive guides for work. So like, where's my screen? Okay, cool. We don't need to see my email. Nothing really weird in there, but just don't need to see it. Okay. So that's not it. Okay. So there's this platform called Ixie Muse. I'm pretty sure I'm saying it right. And basically, think of it like I was mentioning it at the beginning, or maybe we mentioned it off camera before we went on. But essentially, it's a platform like Code Sandbox, but for like infrastructure related stuff. So essentially, Pomerium, where I work at, it is security software for infrastructure. So it's always self-hosted, even if you have our enterprise version. Like we don't have, we never host it for you. And so like that means a couple things. One, somebody who's maybe new to infrastructure in general could be very intimidated by this. Just setting it up, like you can do it with a Docker or Compose pretty easily, but the problem is I'm able to run it out of my home network because I can actually open ports on my router for my ISP. Like I have port 443 open for like my internal stuff going out. I have another port for like SSH, not the regular 22. But a lot of people can't even do that in their home network. So even trying it at home, like you can kind of set it up locally with like local certs and stuff. But the main point is it's like there's some friction to just getting started sometimes because it's inherently an infrastructure thing. And even like people that are platform engineers, they might have to get approval at work to even try out something. So my coworker Dennis, he found this site a while ago, and he's like, he just mentioned it to me in terms of for me to level up on stuff learning. And so then he's like, oh, you can create content there. So I started to create some content there. It's all mainly work related right now, but they have like a vendor page. So I just have like some stuff I've been building out, but I just kind of want to go through one really quick. I'll go through the quickest one, I think. So we have native SSH with Pomerium, meaning you can literally SSH via Pomerium. Pomerium itself, like, not to get into the weeds too much, but it's what's called an identity-aware proxy. So essentially, everything goes through Pomerium, and it's essentially you have an IDP, an identity provider. So like wherever you work, whatever IDP you use, you can bring that in. There's a reverse proxy. We use something called Envoy. It's pretty mature it's a CNCF mature graduated project. And then we have a policy engine. And so basically, in a nutshell, what an identity-aware proxy does is always verifying like literally every request. And so you have to be logged in, obviously, but then there's policy checks, and those checks happen every time. And the checks can be very simple. Like for today, we'll just say it's like an email. Like, is this dev's email? Yes. Okay, it matches. Then he's allowed through. Otherwise, you're not allowed through. And the main difference between other things is you don't even go through the proxy, so you never hit the actual resources if the policy checks don't pass or you're not logged in. So that's kind of like a very quick speed run of what Pomerium is. And so like if people just want to try out stuff, I just started creating these interactive guides. And so like it walks you through. I'm not going to read it all, obviously, but I can show you really quickly because I speed run these things once I'm building them. But essentially, it's a lot of copy paste, and it tells you what's happening. And I'm basically building out infrastructure here. So like I can just set up some stuff. I'm setting up some keys here. And the interactive guide actually has checkpoints. And this isn't just like you're at this point, you get a checkbox. It's literally checking logs. In this case, it's checking where all these certificates or these keys created. And so like that's kind of how these work. And the reason why I think this is more appealing too is like having done a lot of stuff like front end and like working at Netlify, you know, like the things typically used to be like you would just tell somebody, here's the template, you know, fork the template or deploy it to Netlify, you're done. Like that's it. That's not the case with infrastructure stuff. So the goal is to teach them a bit, but also make it digestible by like, they don't have to literally type everything out. Again, I'm speed running this, but it just gives you stuff that you can build out here. And I'm going to have like a real instance of Pomerium working in a sec. I got to do my keys. I picked the worst one to do because I'm gonna have to show my keys here. But I'll rotate it real quickly. Hold on a sec.
You can pull it off screen if you want. This is awesome. I love this. This is so cool.
Yeah, here, let me take it off for a sec. But like the main point here is it's not just for somebody to do copy pasta. The goal is like, again, I'm not reading through the whole thing right now because like I built these things and I'm just trying to speed run through it. But they can learn what the thing is. They build out the infrastructure. They configure the things that make sense in that particular interactive course. And then from there, they can actually really see it working in action. And even potential clients, like even though I'm doing DevRel, I do pre-sales calls sometimes. And it's like, you can literally just say to a client, well, you can just try it out here. This is how it works, kind of, you know? So it's really appealing for that. And starting to see a bit of traction with it. It's still early days, but okay, let me just configure the GitHub here real quick. Okay, client ID. I should have picked one where you didn't have to use GitHub, but that's okay. Generate a new secret. Yes. So a little longer than 5 minutes because I got to generate some stuff, but you won't see it after that. So let me copy this. That's good. All right. That's pretty good. Okay, I can bring this back here. Okay, so we've got that. I just need to fix the callback URL. Let me copy that. And then we should be good. There. Okay. GitHub should be fine now. Okay. So it basically tells you, okay, like basically in this scenario here, I'm using the identity provider, which is going to be GitHub. And then it just tells you stuff. So Pomerium has this concept of routes. So that's how you proxy stuff. You say you're coming from some public or accessible address, and it goes to some internal resource, which is on your network that can't be reached except through the proxy. So let's run that. And then I'm just going to say, here's my email. And there we go. Okay, so, and then again, all these checks that are going green now, they're actually checking configuration, other things it's going to check logs and stuff. So it's not just a, hey, you're at this point. And I put a bunch of time into that. And I actually have skills that I've curated over time as I'm building these out that allow me to do this quicker. So I'm going to go ahead here. Again, like they don't need to type out this whole Docker compose. So I'm just going to say, paste it in, and then I'm going to start it up. And again, so again, we're in a web browser. So they're testing, like they could be doing Kubernetes in here. They're literally in a web browser. And that's, I think, what the appealing thing is. And there's a lot of great courses in here. I have a paid plan. All these courses I'm showing, they're free, obviously. There's a lot of free content, but if you want a subscription, there is more advanced stuff is paid stuff, but there is a lot of great free content too.
Yeah, I saw there's actually, you could do a $300 lifetime subscription. You just get everything forever.
Yeah, that's cool. What I did just to support them, and also just because I'm actually building on the platform. Okay, so
awesome. And I love how it's kind of like, Code Sandbox for back in the day, but for infrastructure, that was always the thing. They only really worked for like these kind of front end type things. You didn't really, except for like, you have things like Gitpod, but they end up pivoting. So
yeah,
I don't know if that really ever worked out.
Yeah, but they got acquired by OpenAI, so they did okay.
Oh, did they? That's funny. I didn't know they got acquired by OpenAI.
They became a company called Ona. and then
Yes, I
they
knew that.
just recently got acquired.
Oh, cool.
That said, you can actually bring in an editor in here, so you can have like VS Code in here too. But and the other thing I'd say is like this is trying to make it approachable for everybody, but also this is a platform for people to learn infrastructure. So it's meant to be more terminal like as well. You know, like that's part of the learning process, I think. So we get to this point here. I have Pomerium's running. I've got like all my containers running. And so the nice thing too about this platform is you can delegate different tabs and stuff. So I'm going to say click on that and it brings me to it. And I try to literally guide them as much as possible so there's no confusion. So now I'm going to SSH. And so what's going to happen here is, okay, this is normal. It's the first time you're SSHing to something. But if I zoom this in, this is what Pomerium is doing here. So I'm doing regular SSH, and now you're getting this interactive login. So my SSH connection is being guarded by Pomerium. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this. It's going to open up a new tab. And I'm already logged into GitHub, so that's why you didn't see the GitHub login. But now I'm going to say I want to authorize my access to this SSH connection. And that's all good. And you can see here I'm on the server now. So that part on its own is like, okay, that's kind of cool. But like the point is to show what Pomerium can do. And so, okay, we did all this. Now, what I'm going to show is, so like the thing with Pomerium is you can, because of these policy checks that I was mentioning, it's literally every request. So like in the context of a web app, if I changed a policy and you are no longer allowed dev, the next time you try to access it, you're going to get it denied. This is different from traditional like web apps where you're just like you're logged in and then maybe at the end at some point the next time you log in you're no longer able to log in, but this is like immediate revocation. So that's like web stuff, but this is an SSH connection. So so I'm already logged in here right now. So like if I'm in this SSH connection right now. So I've got these files here. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to change the policy. So the policy is basically, I can come show you what it is. But if we come over here, it's going to show my key, but that's fine. Okay, so this is the Pomerium config. And you're going to see here, the policy is basically allow anybody to SSH where the email is nick@nickyt.co. So what we're going to do is, and you can see I'm still connected here. I'm going to go ahead and change the policy. So this sed command is literally just going to add a typo to my email address and change the policy. The policy gets updated immediately. If I come back here, I get disconnected from my SSH connection immediately. So this is like a wow factor when we show people this. And now they can actually just try this in a browser. So like there's no, there might be a bit of friction still because you still have to kind of understand some things, but it's really nice to either just show somebody, or if I need to demo it, or if I give a talk, I can reference these things now too for people to try out. And all these things here are always the open core stuff. Like we obviously have an enterprise version of things where there's validly enterprise features, but we try to put as much in the open core. So that's cool. So I got revoked, and again, it's checking logs here. So like you can see here, if I look at the logs in the Docker logs, it's going to show me I was denied, I got disconnected. And now I'm going to come back here, and I'm going to, I got to fix the policy. So I'm going to undo that typo. So the policy gets updated immediately. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to SSH again, and I'm back in business again. And again, it's these checks are checking the real logs to see that all happen. And that's kind of essentially it. But this is like a way for me to show people like this is how this feature works. And also, hey, go try it on your own time. It doesn't take that long. And this is just one of them. Like I'm building an MCP course right now. Again, all open core stuff, so you don't have to pay for anything. I just released the OpenClaw one today, so it just shows you how to harden access to OpenClaw with that trusted proxy auth mode I implemented in OpenClaw with Pomerium. And then there's some other ones, and then this course is in progress. I got 2 lessons out, and I'm just going to continue. But like basically, this has been like a huge unlock for me, because like trying to show, or like we can obviously have demo environments when we show people stuff, but this is really like a, hey, if you want to go try it on your own time, I've just found it like a huge unlock. So
have you had people try these courses out already?
the course is brand new, but the tutorials some people have done. I'm just gonna probably just start promoting them more, like, hey, just try this out. I think some things I'll do is like, people I know, hey, could you provide me some feedback on these? I'll send you some swag, or maybe like an Amazon, you know. I have to get clearance from work for that stuff, but yeah, it's also just, the other thing too is these are publicly accessible, so the LLMs can slurp them up too in terms of understanding the product, which is nice. But I think it's also still nice that, although I'm a big fan of AI, you still need to learn some fundamental stuff. You still need to, you know, so I think there's a balance there. And I don't know, I think these guides have made it super approachable, much like Code Sandbox back in the day was like great for stuff like this.
Yeah, it reminds me a little bit of like Free Code Camp as well, because it's actually checking to see if you've done it correctly.
Yeah. So that's pretty much it. You know, that's kind of what I'm focusing on right now. Is a big push for me to just work on guides, and my job in general right now is still just create awareness about Pomerium, because it's not a household name, obviously, you know, like that's yeah. But you know, these things take time, but like, you know, giving talks and stuff helps too. But I think this will really just help me in terms of like the awareness and also just teaching aspects. So that's all I got.
Cool. Awesome. No, thanks for sharing that. That's really cool. I didn't know about this platform. You said this, but just remind me, how'd you hear about this platform?
So my coworker Dennis, because like, so for context, for people who don't know my history, really, I've been an app developer most of my career. Also done a lot of front end, worked on the frameworks team at Netlify, and then huge pivot to like, all of a sudden I'm doing, you know, infrastructure security software. So like, I don't know too many people that go from React to security software for infrastructure. So like for me, you know, like I was like, there's just so much, and I'm still learning. And he's like, this is just a really great resource if you want to learn Kubernetes better, if you want to understand containers better, and like, and they have a Discord too, and so they do community calls as well. And like the other day I was on one, and the guy was just literally building a container from scratch, you know, like it was just interesting. And I'm just trying to get better at these things. And security is obviously important, always has been, but in the age of AI, its importance as well as infrastructure has been accelerated even more, because like people are trying to spin up sandboxes. Like everybody's like, oops, I didn't, you know, like I don't know how many times my API keys I've had to rotate, because even with hooks and stuff, like it's still like it can break out, right? And there's patterns. We're working on this like other people, but you want to basically have your agent contained in this box, and then like you proxy out. So like even if it's trying to get your keys, it would never be able to, because they're always on the outside, you know? So I just find it, I don't know, feel lucky to kind of be in this space. Also happen to just randomly fall in doing a lot of AI stuff here. It just happened that way because of like MCPs, because we also act as an MCP gateway. So like there's just been a lot of cool stuff that has just happened by being at this company. And I don't know, I think it's interesting and super important, all these things right now. You know, a lot of things are important too, obviously not just these things, but like I said, you know, there's been like so many cases of like, oh yeah, I'm the head of meta safety and I lost all my emails because I let my OpenClaw do something or whatever, you know, like, anyways.
We got Pomerium.com here, and then you are Nikki T Online, and one tip a week. We shared that link earlier up here. One tip a week.
But yeah, it's cool hanging, man. Yeah, and like I don't know if if you want to even go deeper again on Spectre next time. I don't know if it's too much to ask Dev if we should like live code together and try and move the needle on it, or
No,
Maybe that'd be
100%.
fun. Yeah, we have
I'd
a
love to do
guest. We have
that.
Dylan coming up next week, but I think on the and then Glauber talking about Terso on the 3rd.
Oh, yeah,
but
yeah.
We don't have anyone scheduled for the 10th. So
yeah, I'm gonna be on vacation at that point, but I'm traveling a bit for work as well. But yeah, I think like late August on, and yeah. But yeah, whenever it works out. But yeah, I was actually gonna ask.
You always have a standing invitation to come back anytime you want, as you know.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I was actually gonna ask Glauber if he wanted to hang again. I had him on when Terso first came out, because I moved everything to Terso for my own site now, and it's really good. They have an MCP as well now. I don't know if you've seen that, but like, and then obviously the porting to Rust and like trying to make a better SQLite. Not the same as the cursor. I saw the comments there, like
Right,
Glauber quoted it, but like people are like trying to put cursor through the ringer. All they were doing was just an experiment, and then it's like everybody's like, why? Yeah, SQLite's like the best thing since sliced bread. Why are you changing it? And it's like, I think they were just trying it.
Yeah, that'll be fun. I actually interviewed Glauber in person at RemixConf in 2023.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's actually where I first met him. We connected, and I said, "Hey, yeah, we should do a live stream sometime." So yeah,
he's super chill.
Yeah.
Dev, cool. Anything before we close out you want to say or share?
I mean, yeah, I think live coding is a really great idea. I might have, I might do that like for a YouTube video as well. But yeah, I would be more than happy to do it on this podcast, even especially if you show up. Yeah, I think I guess be on the lookout for more stuff from Spectre on my Twitter and my YouTube. Yeah.
Awesome. It was super fun as always. Thanks for being here, Nick. So for people who are watching, as I said, next week we're gonna have Dylan Piercy on to talk about Marco 6, which apparently is released, which is funny because I remember hearing about it, how they were working on it. I think 2021 is when I first had Dylan on a podcast. He was like, "Yeah, Marco 6 is gonna be awesome." So really excited to talk to him about that. And then the week after we'll have Glauber.
So eBay is going to be even more blazing fast now?
So blazing fast. You're going to be able to buy those tchotchkes twice as fast.
Cool. All right.
All right. Both of you hang on for a second after we end it, but we'll catch you all next time.
Cool. Hey, everybody.